So we go to the next question. Why there's so many gods, is it? Hmm? Is that the question? Hello, Hare Krishna.
Yes, why are there so many god in Hinduism?
Okay. Actually, this philosophy of having many gods is not what we say a proper understanding. In our so-called Sanatan Dharma, Vedic religion, there's only one God, but there are many demigods, or we call in Sanskrit Devata. Devata means many demigods. They're not God, they're departmental heads. There are 330 million of them, 33 koti. So there are so many departments to organize things. For example, that the sun god is there, the moon god is there. Hmm? Then there's a god for rain. There's controllers, You may believe or not believe, someone must control. Just like in any ordinary material activities, there must be a departmental head. So the Lord's management is that Lord Brahma is in charge of sub-creation, Lord Shiva is in charge of annihilation, Lord Indra is the king of the heavenly planet in charge of rainfall, and taking care of fighting with against the non-devotees, demons, and then there's Varuna in charge of the water. Then you have Vayu in charge of the wind, and you have Yamaraj in charge of justice. So they're different like this management, you know. And surprisingly, why they say so many gods are there, because this worship of the demigods also facilitate getting material benefits. So therefore, people who do not have any understanding of this Vedic religion, they think there are many gods. Huh? You see here in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, man in this world desires success in fruitive activities and therefore they worship the demigod. Quickly, of course, man get result from fruitive work in this world. So yes, you go and worship them, you get material benefit, you know. Like here it says also, in charge of the various necessity of life. See, in charge of the various necessity of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gift without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. So there is some kind of tax you have to pay back. But if you do not pay back this, of course you say tax, but that is actually called sacrifice. Then we are, becoming implicated just as much as if I don't pay my tax to the government, then I can be charged under tax evasion. So the same way, this management of the universe, when I don't pay my returns to the demigod in form of sacrifice, then I become implicated. In fact, it says here, I become a thief. So the demigods are in charge of various departments, but the demigods are not the supreme personality of Godhead. No, demigod position is to be subordinate to God. You know, it is never, they never claim to be the position of the supreme. That's why just now we read the verse, Lord Brahma says, among all kind of controllers, the supreme controller is Krishna. For those who missed the point, I will again show you the verse. Yeah, you can see again, Lord Brahma is saying, Ishvara Paramaha Krishna, among all kind of controllers, supreme controller is Krishna. So Krishna is not, a demigod. Whereas Lord Brahma is a demigod, Lord Shiva is a demigod. So many people are demigods except Krishna. So the criteria is explained here, the position of Krishna. Someone want to read this for me?
All the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord, but Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists.
Can you read the purport?
In this particular stanza, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is distinguished from other incarnations. He is counted amongst the avatars, incarnations, because out of his causeless mercy, the Lord descends from his transcendental abode. Avatara means one who descends. All the incarnations of the Lord, including the Lord himself, descend to the different planets of the material world, as also in different species of life, to fulfill particular missions. Sometimes he comes himself, and sometimes his different plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions or his differentiated portions, directly or indirectly empowered by him, descend to this material world to execute certain specific functions. Originally, the Lord is full of all opulences, all prowess, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. When they are partly manifested through the plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions, it should be noted that certain manifestations of his different powers are required for those particular functions. When in the room, small electric bulbs are displayed, it does not mean that the electric powerhouse is limited by the small bulbs. The same powerhouse can supply power to operate large-scale industrial dynamos with greater volts. Similarly, the incarnations of the Lord display limited powers because so much power is needed at that particular time. For example, Lord Parashurama and Lord Narsingha displayed unusual opulence by killing the disobedient Kshatriyas 21 times and killing the greatly powerful atheist Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu was so powerful that even the demigods and the other planets would tremble simply by the unfavorable raising of his eyebrow. The demigods in the higher level of material existence many times excel the most well-to-do human beings in longevity, beauty, wealth, paraphernalia, and all other aspects. Still, they were afraid of Hiranyakashipu. Thus, we can simply imagine how powerful Hiranyakashipu was in this material world. But even Hiranyakashipu was cut into small pieces by the nails of Lord Narasimha. This means that anyone materially powerful cannot stand the strength of the Lord's nails. Similarly, Jamadagnya displayed the Lord's power to kill all the disobedient kings powerfully situated in their respective states. The Lord's empowered incarnation Narada and plenary incarnation Varaha, as well as indirectly empowered Lord Buddha, created faith in the mass of people. The incarnations of Rama and Dhanvantari displayed his fame, and Balarama, Mohini, and Vamana exhibited his beauty. Dattatreya, Matsya, Kumara, and Kapila exhibited his transcendental knowledge. Nara and Narayana Rishis exhibited his renunciation. So all the different indirectly or directly empowered incarnations of the Lord manifested different features, but Lord Krishna, the primeval Lord, exhibited the complete features of Godhead, and thus it is confirmed that he is the source of all other incarnations. And the most extraordinary feature exhibited by Lord Sri Krishna was his internal energetic manifestation of his pastimes with the cowherd girls. His pastimes with the gopis are all displays of transcendental existence, bliss, and knowledge, although these are manifested apparently as sex love. The specific attraction of his pastime with the gopis should never be misunderstood. The Bhagavatam relates these transcendental pastimes in the 10th canto. And in order to reach the position to understand the transcendental nature of Lord Krishna's pastime to the gopis, the Bhagavatam promotes the student gradually in 9 other cantos.
Okay, I want you to read this portion. So here, can you read the purport for me?
Isn't this the one? Sorry.
The-
No.
the- your-
In this particular stanza, Lord.
Let's see, is it the same? Yeah, you read this, huh? I want to go to this part here. Yeah. All right, can you read this part here?
Samam Bonam Krishna is one without a second. He himself has expanded himself in various parts, portions, and particles as Swayam Rupa, Swayam Prakasha, Tadekatma, Prabhava, Vaibhava, Vilasa, Avatara, Avesha, and Jivas, all provided with innumerable energies just suitable to the respective persons and personalities. Learned scholars in transcendental subjects have carefully analyzed the Samam Bonam Krishna to have 64 principal attributes. All the expansions or categories of the Lord possess only some percentages of these attributes, but Sri Krishna is the possessor of such of the attributes 10%. And his personal expansions such as Swayam Prakasha and Tad Ekatma, up to the categories of the avatars who are Vishnu Tattva, possess up to 93% of these transcendental attributes. Lord Shiva, who is neither Avatara nor Avesha, nor in between them, possesses almost 84% of the attributes. But the Jivas, or the individual living beings in different statuses of life, possess up to the limit of 78% of the attributes. In the conditioned state of material existence, the living being possesses these attributes in very minute quantity, varying in terms of the pious life of the living being. The most perfect of living beings is Brahma, the supreme administrator of one universe. He possesses 78% of the attributes in full. All other demigods have the same attributes in less quantity, whereas human beings possess the attributes in very minute quantity. The standard of perfection for a human being is to develop the attributes up to 78% in full. The living being can never possess attributes like Shiva, Vishnu, or Lord Krishna. A living being can become godly by developing the 78% transcendental attributes in fullness, but he can never become a god like Shiva, Vishnu, or Krishna. He can become a Brahma in due course. The godly living beings who are residents of the planets in the spiritual sky are eternal associates of God in different spiritual planets called Haridhama and Mahesh Dhama. The abode of Lord Krishna above all other spiritual planets is called Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavana, and the perfected living being, by developing 78% of the above attributes in fullness, can enter the planet of Krishna Loka after leaving the present material body.
So from this verse, you can see that Lord Brahma, the highest living entity, can get up to 78%. Of course, God, Krishna is 100%. Then higher than him is Lord Shiva, is got 90, Shiva. Shiva has got the thing up to 84%. And Lord Vishnu, Tattva, has got 93%. So higher than him, topmost, fully 100%, that is Krishna. So you see the breakdown. So although there are many gods, but the supreme God is Krishna, you know. And that even clearly you can see in this verse the how the breakdown is, you know. So if someone else want to read this? Yeah, please read.
Of the two energies manifest, spirit and dulled matter, beings possessing living force, vegetables, grass, trees, and plants are superior to dull matter, stone, earth, etc. Superior to non-moving plants and vegetables are worms and snakes, which can move. Superior to worms and snakes are animals that have developed intelligence. Superior to animals are human beings, and superior to human beings are ghosts because they have no material body. Superior to ghosts are the Gandharvas, and superior to them are the Siddhas. Superior to Siddhas are the Kinnaras, and superior to them are Asuras. Superior to the Asuras are the demigods, and of the demigods, Indra, the king of heaven, is supreme. Superior to Indra are the direct sons of Lord Brahma, sons like King Daksha, and supreme among Brahma's son is Lord Shiva. Since Lord Shiva is the son of Lord Brahma, Brahma is considered superior. But Brahma is also subordinate to me, the supreme personality of Godhead. Because I am inclined to the Brahmanas are best of all.
So you can see here how the qualification of the demigods are. So there are many demigods, among them Lord Shiva, Lord Indra, king. Above him is uh, the sons of the Prajapatis like Daksha, Narada, all these persons are Prajapatis. And among them, higher than them is Lord Shiva, who's also the son of Brahma. Hmm? And because Brahma is the father, he is superior, then everyone is subordinate to Krishna. Yeah? Everyone is a servant of Krishna. So this we have to understand how the whole thing is set up by Krishna. So there's no such thing as many gods. There's only one supreme God, and there's many other departmental heads are called devatas. So we cannot make this mistake of thinking that many gods are there in our religion. In fact, Krishna says, one who knows about me as the supreme, he called him as, you know, a very great and rare soul. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapajyate vasudevam sarvamiti samahatma sudur labha. After many birth and death, he who actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me the cause of all causes and all that is, that means knowing that Krishna is the supreme, such a soul is very great and rare soul, Mahatma and Sudurlabha. You understand? But someone who thinks that there are many gods and all, Krishna don't classify them as a very great and rare soul, you know. Anyone who thinks otherwise, and that's verse Jnana yagena chapi anye yajanto mam upashate. This word you see, eketvena prataktvena bahuda viswato mukam. The translation, others, he called those people who are not great and rare souls as others. Who are they? Who engage in sacrifice by the cultivate knowledge who worship the Supreme Lord as one without a second. That means Ekatvena. That means they think God is some effulgence, some light. And as diverse in many, that means this diverse in many means they think he has got many forms like demigods. They think there's so many gods. So one who's thinking that God is light, one who thinks there's many gods, and also one who worship the universal form. So these people are not classified as great and rare soul. They're considered as others. You understand this point? So to know God is all in all, oh, that is the topmost knowledge. But all who think that there's all this kind of other kind of thinking, they're not very intelligent. In fact, the Lord classify those people who worship these demigods as not very intelligent people, you know. Can see kamis, he called them kamis, those who are interested in satisfying taita harta gyan. This word harta gyan means they have lost their intelligence. So one who thinks that there are many gods, those whose intelligence have been stolen by material desires, surrender into the demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own nature. So those who have got less intelligence, no, stolen by material desire. Hmm? Again, it says here that he is the source of all the demigods. Hmm? This was you see here. Endeavor is such faith it develops the particular to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desire. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. So God is, is the one who actually is giving to give the demigods to give to us. Huh? And he calls them, here he says, those who worship demigods are alpameda, that means not so less intelligent. Man of small intelligence, worship the demigods. Huh? And their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigod go to the planet of the demigod, but my devotee ultimately reach my supreme planet. So the demigod's position is different, Krishna's position is different. You understand? Krishna is the source of all the demigods, but the demigods are not equal, as Nasnai earlier says, that nobody is equal to God, nor above him. So try to understand the position of the demigods. They are subordinate. They are never at all, equal to Krishna at any point of time. And they cannot be. See? The demigods are all under the modes of material nature, whereas Krishna is above the modes of material nature. Demigods are also subject to birth, death, old age, and disease, but Krishna is not. There's no being existing either here among the demigods in the higher planet system which is free from the three modes of material nature, modes of born of material nature. So Krishna is transcendental. He's not part of this material nature, you know. Krishna says here, know that all state of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything and I'm independent. I'm not under the modes of material nature, for they are on the contrary are within me. So demigods are under the modes of material nature and Krishna is above the modes of material nature. That's a unique position of Krishna and the demigods. So there's not many gods, there's only one God, that is Krishna. Of course, he has many names, that is undoubtedly there, but he doesn't have names of demigods, that's different. All of the demigods are worshipping the Lord. Yeah, that's another thing. They worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And they don't make the mistake of thinking that they are above Krishna or equal to Krishna. That they don't make that mistake. So try to understand the unique position. So we have to understand this philosophy properly. That there's no kind of a speculation involved. But people who do not know the Shastra, they try to think that there are so many gods because as usual there are many gods, there's Shiva, there's Ganesh, there's so many things. So they become confused. And there's nobody to explain because most of them don't even read the Bhagavad Gita to know. Hmm? Krishna says here in the Bhagavad Gita again, Krishna says, neither the host of the demigod nor the great sages know my origin or opulence in every respect. I am the source of the demigods and the sages. So he is the source of the demigods and sages, then how can there be he also is equal to them? It doesn't make sense. Yeah. That's why we have to know things properly. Then we know as they are, then our love for God can develop, no? If we don't know who is God, what's his position, then we'll be confused. And for the soul which is doubting, they cannot understand anything, neither can they get perfection. This is something we have to understand, It's not something we can speculate on, and then live by it, If I don't like this God, I go to that God. If I don't like that God, I go to this God. Doesn't make sense, this whole thing, But we understand as they are, then we live without doubt. Then yes, everything become clear for us, If we don't know, then we have to approach some self-realized soul and learn the truth. Unless we learn the truth from the self-realized soul, how we can understand this? That's why Krishna says you must go approach a self-realized soul and learn. You must have a guru. That Krishna is, Krishna is saying, yeah, you have to go and learn. Tadvidi parnipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadesetyang te jnanam jnanina tattva darshana. You see? Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master and try to inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. We have to follow the system of getting knowledge. Not that we just practice, we think that everything is there, I know everything, and, live like that. Then we cannot understand things as they are. In fact, when someone asks this kind of question, we will be confused. Yeah, so much confused that, when someone is confused, then how his faith will grow? Yes? So try to understand. So we have to know and we have to understand this. Otherwise, very difficult, Let me take out another verse from the Rig Veda. In the Rig Veda, it says here, Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam Tat Pasyanti. This verse, Adi. So in this verse, can you read this for me, please?
Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami explains that the variegated personal feature of the absolute truth is the Vishnu Tattva, and that the material energy which creates this cosmic manifestation is the energy of Lord Vishnu. The creative force is merely the energy of the Lord. But the foolish conclude that because the Lord has distributed himself in an impersonal form, he has no separate existence. The impersonal Brahman, however, cannot possess energies, nor do the Vedic literature state that Maya, the illusory energy, is covered by another Maya. There are hundreds.
One second, no?
Yes.
Can you read this passage? All right, here.
Lord Vishnu cannot be placed within the category of the demigod. Those who are actually bewildered by the Mayavada philosophy and are still in the darkness of ignorance consider Lord Vishnu to be a demigod. In defiance of the Rig Veda mantra, Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam, Vishnu is always in a superior position. This mantra is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Matta Parataram Nanyas, Bhagavad Gita 7.7. There is no truth superior to Lord Krishna or Vishnu. Thus, only those whose knowledge has been bewildered consider Lord Vishnu to be a demigod and therefore suggest that only one may worship either Lord Vishnu, the demigod, the goddess Kali Durga, or whomever one likes.
Oh, sorry.
And achieve the same result. This is an ignorant conclusion of that is not accepted in the Bhagavad Gita 9.25, which definitely says, Yanti Deva Vratam Devan, Yanti Mad Yajino Bhimam. The worshippers of the demigods will be promoted to the respective planets of the demigods. But devotees of the Supreme Lord will go back home, back to Godhead. Lord Krishna explains very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita 7.14 that his material energy is very difficult to overcome. Deiviyesha Gunamami Mama Maya Duratyaya. Maya's influence is so strong that even learned scholars and spiritualists are also covered by Maya. And think themselves to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, however, to free oneself from the influence of Maya, one must surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As Krishna also states in the Bhagavad Gita 7.14, Mam eva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. It is to be concluded, therefore, that Lord Vishnu does not belong to this material creation, but to the spiritual world. To misconceive Lord Vishnu to have a material body or to equate him with a demigod is the most offensive
Blasphemy.
blasphemy.
To misconceive Lord Vishnu to have a material body or to equate him with a demigod is the most offensive blasphemy against Lord Vishnu. And offended against the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu cannot advance in spiritual knowledge. They are called Maya Paharta Gyan, or those whose knowledge have been stolen by the influence of illusion. So see, this is the fact that you see, if you think there are many gods, it's an offensive blasphemy against Lord Vishnu. There's only one God, you know. It's also highlighted here in this verse. You want to read this?
I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. A learned scholar who has studied the Vedas perfectly and has information from authorities like Lord Chaitanya, and who knows how to apply these teachings can understand that Krishna is the origin of everything in both the material and spiritual worlds. And because he knows this perfectly, he becomes firmly fixed in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. He can never be deviated by any amount of nonsensical commentaries or by fools. All Vedic literature agrees that Krishna is the source of Brahma, Shiva, and all other demigods. In the Atharva Veda, Gopala Tapani Upanishad 1.24, it is said, Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam, Yo Vai Vedamscha Gapayati Sma Krishna. It was Krishna who in the beginning instructed Brahma in Vedic knowledge and who disseminated Vedic knowledge in the past. Then again, the Narayana Upanishad 1 says, Atha Purusho Havai Narayano Kamayata Praja Shrejyati. Then the Supreme Personality Narayana desired to create living entities. The Upanishad continues, Narayanat Brahma Jayate, Narayanat Prajapati Prajayate, Narayanad Indro Jayate, Narayanad Astau Vasavo Jayante, Narayanad Ekadasha. Scroll down. Narayanad Ekadasha Rudra Jayante, Narayanad Dvadashadityaha. From Narayana, Brahma is born, and from Narayana, the patriarchs are also born. From Narayana, Indra is born. From Narayana, the 8 Vasus are born. And from Narayana, the 11 Rudras are born. From Narayana, the 12 Adityas are born. This Narayana is an expansion of Krishna. It is said in the same Vedas, Brahmanyo Devaki Putra, the son of Devaki Krishna, is the Supreme Personality. Narayana Upanishad 4. Then it is said, Eko vai Narayana Asina Brahmana Ishano Napunagni Somao Dyav Aprithvi Na Nakshatrani Na Suryaha. In the beginning of the creation, there was only the Supreme Personality Narayana. There was no Brahma, no Shiva, no water, no fire, no moon, no heaven and earth, no stars in the sky, no sun. Maha Upanishad 1.2. In the Maha Upanishad, it is also said that Lord Shiva was born from the forehead of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the Vedas say that in the Supreme Lord, the creator of Brahma and Shiva, who is to be worshipped. In Moksha Dharma section of the Mahabharata, Krishna also says the patriarchs Shiva and others are created by me, though they do not know that they are created by me because they are deluded by my illusory energy. In the Varaha Purana, it is also said Narayana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and from him Brahma was born, and from whom Shiva was born. Lord Krishna is the source of all generations, and he is called the most efficient cause of everything. He says, because everything is born of me, I am the original source of all. Everything is under me. No one is above me. There is no supreme controller other than Krishna. One who understands Krishna is in such a way from a bona fide spiritual master with references from Vedic literature, engages all his energy in Krishna consciousness and becomes a truly learned man. In comparison to him, all others who do not know Krishna properly are but fools. Only a fool would consider Krishna to be an ordinary man. A Krishna conscious person should not be bewildered by fools. He should avoid all unauthorized commentaries and interpretations on Bhagavad Gita and proceed in Krishna consciousness with determination, and firmness.
So is it clear about this whole thing about there's only one God, Krishna, and there are other many demigods? Huh?